Okay, hi everybody. It's our second lesson of the 9th week, and I will continue from where I left off. Now I'm in my room, because in the living room, children are watching EBA live lessons, and I'm doing my own lesson here, so we are all studying at the moment. Yes, okay. I was talking about Göbekli Tepe, which is one of the most important and most ancient settlements and temples of the world. And now I will continue. We were talking about how the wild sheep and wheat and barley were domesticated, and it was very important because Göbekli Tepe is the first place that the wild wheat was domesticated. Yani bu vahşi buğdayların ilk defa tarımsal olarak kullanıldığı ilk yer olarak görünüyor şu anda Göbekli Tepe arkadaşlar. Çok önemli o yüzden burası. To Schmidt and others, these new findings suggest a new theory of civilization. Scholars have long believed that only after people learned to farm and live in settled communities, only then they have the time, organization, and resources to construct temples and support complicated social structures. But Schmidt argues it was the other way around. Tam tersi olduğunu söylüyor. The extensive, coordinated effort to build the monoliths literally laid the groundwork for the development of complex societies. Yes. Well, the immensity of the undertaking at Göbekli Tepe reinforces that view. Schmidt says the monuments couldn't have been built by wrecked bands of hunter-gatherers. It's impossible. To carve, to erect and bury rings of 7 to 10 stone pillars, 10-ton stone pillars, would have required hundreds of workers. And they were all needed to be fed and housed. It's a big, big work. They were not just some hunter-gatherers around. Hence, the eventual emergence of settled communities in the area around 10,000 years ago. This shows socio-cultural changes come first. Agriculture comes later, says Stanford University archaeologist Ian Hodder, who excavated Çatalhöyük, a prehistoric settlement 300 miles from Göbekli Tepe. And also I'm going to talk about Çatalhöyük, our next lesson, after Göbekli Tepe, okay? Wait for it. And you can make a good case that this area is the real origin of complex Neolithic societies, he says. Well, what was so important to these early people that they gathered to build the stone rings? The gulf that separates us from Göbekli Tepe's builders is almost unimaginable. Well, there are no sources whatsoever to explain what the symbols on them might mean. Schmidt agrees. We are 6,000 years before the invention of writing here, he says. There is more time between Göbekli Tepe and the Sumerian clay tablets than from Sumer to the day, says Gary Rolofson, an archaeologist at Whitman College in Washington. Trying to pick out symbolism from prehistoric content is an exercise in futility. While still, archaeologists have their theories, evidence perhaps of the irresistible human urge to explain the unexplainable. The surprising lack of evidence that people lived right there, researchers say, argues against its use as a settlement or even a place where, for instance, clan leaders gathered. Hodder is fascinated that Göbekli Tepe's pillar carvings are dominated not by edible prey like deer and cattle, but by menacing creatures such as lions, spiders, snakes, scorpions. It's a scary, fantastic world of nasty-looking beasts, he muses. While later cultures were more concerned with farming and fertility, he suggests, perhaps these hunters were trying to master their fears by building this complex, which is a good distance from where they lived. Interesting theory. Well, Daniel Stardor, an archaeologist at the National Center for Scientific Research in France, emphasizes the significance of the vulture carvings. Some cultures have long believed the high-flying carrion birds transported the flesh of the dead up to the heavens. He has found similar symbols at sites from the same era as Göbekli Tepe, just 50 miles away in Syria. You can really see it's the same culture, she says. All the most important symbols are the same. For his part, Schmidt is certain the secret is right beneath his feet. Over the years, his team has found fragments of human bone in the layers of dirt that filled the complex. Deep test pits have shown that the floors of the rings are made of hardened limestone. Schmidt is betting that beneath the floors, he will find the structure's true purpose, a final resting place for a society of hunters. Perhaps, Schmidt says, the site was a burial ground or the center of a death cult, the dead laid out on the hillside among the stylized gods and spirits of the afterlife. If so, Göbekli Tepe's location was no accident. From here, the dead are looking out at the ideal view, Schmidt says, as the sun casts down shadows over the half-buried pillars. They are looking out over a hunter's dream, he says, finally. Yes, what do you think? It's very interesting, but we still don't know much about Göbekli Tepe. I hope we will find many things about this place as time goes by, because I'm really curious about this place. I want to go and see sometime. Have you ever seen it? If so, we'll talk about it in our lessons, hopefully next semester, okay? Yes. Okay. Göbekli Tepe is finished. This subject is finished. And somewhere close to Göbekli Tepe, approximately 300 miles, there is Çatalhöyük. And I would like to talk about Çatalhöyük now, okay? Çatalhöyük is, it was a very large Neolithic and Chalcolithic pro-city settlement in southern Anatolia, which existed from approximately 71,000 BC to 57,000 BC. Göbekli Tepe'den birazcık daha yeni sayılır. Yani milattan önce 7.000'ler, 5.000'ler falan çok yeni değil tabii ki ama yani Göbekli Tepe milattan önce 11.000 olunca bu yeni kalıyor yanında. Neredeyse 4.000-5.000 senelik bir fark var. Well, Çatalhöyük flourished around 7,000 BC, around this place, and in July 2012, it was inscribed as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Çatalhöyük is located overlooking the Konya Plain, southeast of the present-day city of Konya. Konya is ancient Ikonim, by the way, in Turkey, and approximately 140 kilometers from the twin cone volcano of Mount Hasan. The eastern settlement forms a mount which would have risen about 20 meters above the plain at the time of the latest Neolithic occupation. There is also a smaller settlement mound to the west and the Byzantine settlement a few hundred meters to the east. Sorry, I'm drinking my coffee at the moment. Okay. The prehistoric mound settlements were abundant before the Bronze Age. A channel of the Çarşamba River once flowed between the two mountains, and the settlement was built on alluvial clay, which may have been favorable for early agriculture. Okay. Okay, now I would like to talk about a little bit the archaeological aspects of Çatalhöyük. And this site was first excavated by James Mallard in 1958. He later led a team which further excavated there for 4 seasons between 1961 and 1965. These excavations revealed this section of Anatolia as a central advanced culture in the Neolithic period. Excavation revealed 18 successive layers of buildings. 18 layers. Oh my God, it's deep. 18 successive layers of buildings signifying various stages of the settlement and eras of history. Imagine peeling layer after layer, digging after layer, and it's very interesting. I once wanted to be an archaeologist, but unfortunately, it didn't happen. Anyway, the bottom layer of the buildings can be dated as early as 71,000 BC, while the top layer is of 56,000 BC. Okay, and if you want to talk about the culture of this place, we can say that Çatalhöyük was composed entirely of domestic buildings with no obvious public buildings, just domestic buildings, no public buildings. It's interesting. And while some of the larger ones have rather ornate murals, the purpose of some rooms remains unclear. The population of the eastern mound has been estimated to be at a maximum 10,000 people, but the population likely varied over the community's history. An average population of between 5,000 and 7,000 is a reasonable estimate. The sites were set up as large numbers of buildings clustered together. Households looked to their neighbors for help, trade, and possible marriage for their children. The inhabitants of this place lived in mud brick houses that were cramped together in an aggregate structure. No footpaths or streets were used between the houses, which were clustered in a honeycomb-like maze. Most were accessed by holes in the ceiling. Interesting, yes. And doors on the side of the houses, with doors reached by ladders and stairs. Well, these rooftops were effectively streets. The streets of this place, imagine it, your rooftops. People are walking on your rooftop. Like they were walking on the street, they were walking on your rooftop. It's interesting. The ceiling openings also served as the only source of ventilation, allowing smoke from the house's open hearths and ovens to escape. Hiç pencere falan yok. Tek havalandırma bu. Bunaltıcı geliyor kulağa, değil mi? Okay. Well, houses had plaster interiors characterized by squares of timber ladders or steep stairs. These were usually on the south wall of the room, as were the cooking hearths and ovens. The main rooms contained raised platforms that may have been used for a range of domestic activities. Typical houses contained 2 rooms for everyday activity, such as cooking and crafting. All interior walls and platforms were plastered to a smooth finish. Ancillary rooms were used as storage and were accessed through low openings from main rooms. Well, all these rooms were kept really clean. Archaeologists identified very little rubbish in the buildings, finding middens outside the ruins with sewage and food waste, as well as significant amounts of ash from burning wood, reeds, and animal dung, but not in the houses, outside houses. Inside of the houses are clean. In good weather, many daily activities may also have taken place on the rooftops, which may have formed a plaza. In later periods, large communal ovens appear to have been built on these rooftops, and over time, houses were renewed by partial demolition and rebuilding on a foundation of rubble, which was how the mound was gradually built up. As many as 18 levels of settlement have been uncovered. Well, okay, this is the end of my lesson 2 of this week, and I will continue to talk about Çatalhöyük in my third video, okay? I'll see you there. Bye-bye, take care.